Hi and welcome to my channel. I am Tammy, the designer of badbobbin.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make one of my snap tabs for the beginning people who aren't sure how to make a simple snap tab. They're called snap tabs, keychains, key fobs. Many designers have different names for them. Snap tab because it's a tab and it snaps. That's kind of basically how I got its name on this one for a snap tab. So this is the script heart snap tab from badbobbin.com. I'm going to show you how it's made. Very simple. So remember to subscribe, hit that bell, give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Any comments down below would be great. Let's head on over to the cutting table. Okay, here's the materials we're going to need for our simple snap tab keychain key fob. I have my vinyl, which is, I'm using plain marine vinyl, very easy to find at like Hobby Lobby, Joann's Fabric. Many of the vinyl companies out there on Facebook or online also sell a plain vinyl or a marine vinyl. So there's many of them out there. If you want a list, go ahead and mention it down below and I'll snap over a list to you. Our 4x4 hoop with tearaway stabilizer. Inexpensive scissors. I got these from the 99-cent store. I don't use expensive scissors for vinyl or felt or fleece. They dull too quick, so I use these simple. I have my 4x4 curve scissors, applique scissors that work great for snipping the little threads and keeping them tucked away. My lighter, which helps singe them. I've always got my lighter. My awl, and we're doing one set of snaps for the snap tabs, and I will have a ring for that too as well, and our hand press. So we have measurements already that I know the design is 3.71 by 2.56. So I'm going to cut my vinyl a 1/2 inch larger so that I'll have a 1/4 inch on each side to play with. So I'm cut it 4 1/4 by 3 to do this keychain that I'm about to do that you saw. So let's head on over to the machine. Okay, we're at the machine now, and I have my vinyl, my tearaway already in the hoop, ready to go. And you can do either way. For the beginners, if you want, you can either do the first step and put it on your in your hoop on your stabilizer so you know where to place your vinyl. That's called a placement stitch. Or I've always moved my pattern in my hoop to utilize my hoop. So I know my pattern is set to the upper corner. So I always put everything up to the upper left corner, and then I can always, if I'm going to do a second one, and if it happens to fit or something fits in here, I'll have room. I always utilize, minimize, waste, maximize my room, you know, everything I do. So I already know it's going to go up in that corner, so I don't need to run a placement line. I'm going to use that line as a tack down. So it's only there once. Some designers put it there twice for a placement and they put a tack down. I only do one because it's minimal. Why waste the thread? Why waste the stitching? And why add bulk of those stitches all in the same spot over and over? So I'm going to go ahead and place my vinyl in my hoop where I know it's going to go, and I'm not going to run a stitch. I use a tacky spray. I have a spray booth for it. Just a little bit, just enough to keep it tacked down a little. And I know that this is my 4 1/4 by 3 piece, and I know the way it's going to go actually in up and down. So I have my guidelines in my hoop. I have little tabs that show me where the design's going to, where my design area is. So on my hoops, and most other hoops will show you, I have little tabs here, and the little tabs, here's one and there's one. So these two tabs, if you join them together, are going to, you know, the spot will be about here is where it's going to start. So I use my vinyl 1/4 inch, a little bit past my imaginary line going from this mark to that mark. So if I put something between those two marks, that's kind of where that line's going to be. So I place it in here. And for very beginners, if you want, go ahead and run that stitch for your placement stitch so that you know where to place your vinyl. I'm going to put it in the hoop now. And first stitch will be my placement stitch, or I'm sorry, tack down stitch now. Then the next stitch will be my design stitch. And the very last step, I have it stopping so that I can place my back piece underneath. So the very last step, we are going to have it stop and not sew. Alright, so we've stitched out our top design on for our key fob, snap tab, keychain, 3 different names. So now that this is done and we did our stop, we have one step left, which will be on for the back. And since the back is in black also, I'm using black, I'm going to make sure that my bobbin thread is black as well. So I'm going to change my bobbin. I'm going to grab my lighter real quick here. And what I do is there's all these little threads hanging in the back. And if I lay that piece, it might lay the piece and these threads are going to hang out. Which means when I go to do my cutting, there's going to be that little piece of thread between my vinyls. And I don't like that. It's a preference. You can either snip them with your scissors, try to get close. I just take the lighter really quick and I just kind of singe it and I push the threads into the center of my design. And that way I know the threads are going to be the inside and not hanging out on my side. I have one long little piece here, so I'm going to hit that again and push it up inside. You don't want to hold too long, it will burn the stabilizer. So everything's cleaned up and it kind of singes those little threads so that if by chance something happens on the front, it's not going to start unwinding on you and pieces hanging out all over. It kind of balls them up and kind of gives it a little knot because of the thread as being a polyester or a nylon thread. So the back is cleaned up. I'm going to take my other piece. You can either tape it right on the back, use 2 pieces of tape on the corner or 4. You don't have to tape all around all the sides, just enough to keep it down. I'm going to use a tacky spray. It's up to you. Some people do not like to use it. I do use a tacky spray. I have a spray booth. I spray my vinyl. I do not spray my hoop. And I'm going to set my vinyl evenly, making sure that all the little sides are going to be covered. My tab is inside there. Lightly press down. I'm going to hold it, flip over, and then I'm going to press it down. Not just to secure it, make sure it's stuck. The glue on the tacky spray that I use does not gum up my needle. Never has. I've never had a problem with it. Never had a problem with the threads. I've had my machine maintained. People, my company knows that I use it. They say moderation, no problems. If it's not causing a problem, keep using it, it's fine. As long as you don't spray it near your machine, near any mechanical parts of your machine, or in your hoop. So it's tacked, it's staying, it's not going anywhere. And I'm going to put it back in the hoop. Make sure my stabilizer's out of the way. I always check under the hoop just to make sure that it didn't move or didn't get dislodged by getting caught on the plate. And I'm going to change my bobbin thread real quick. and our last step. All right. Double check when you take it out. Make sure everything was okay on the back side. It didn't dislodge, move, it didn't fold over by chance. Everything looks good. We have a few little nests and show you how to trim those. And once again, use our lighter when I do trim them, and I'll show you. And everything looks good. We'll take you back to the cutting table. Okay, we're back to the cutting table. Have my design stitched out. Everything was came out good. So I'm going to take it out of the hoop. There we go. And we're going to tear our tearaway off of it. And I pull up the edges because I use that tacky spray. So I kind of run my fingers under it a little bit just to pull it up. And before I do that, I have some threads that are hanging that caught from underneath, and people ask about that little nest. There's a few ways that you can try to get rid of that little nest ahead of time. It's just do one stitch, pull up the bobbin, and then continue your stitching. Sometimes that helps. I just kind of pull it up a little bit with my fingers. It'll come up with, oh, got my scissors caught my fingers. So it's really hard. Sorry, it's black, and hopefully we can focus on this. And you can see those threads that are hanging. So we're going to trim some of those. You'll be able to see them better than probably on the video. Sorry, it's black on black. So I'm just going to run my scissors really quick over it just to trim it down. I kind of use my nail a little bit to pull up. It gets rid of some of the threads that really aren't attached. There we go, a couple more pulled up. Trim them down low. Here's another little thread bunch that caught the thread and knotted it up. So I cut it low. And same thing, I take my lighter again and just really quick where that bunch is, I'm going to run my lighter just to kind of singe the threads, and I push them down in. That way it keeps it, it's almost like tying a knot, but with the lighter you're balling it up and you're stopping it from pulling out onto the other side. So just a little, beginner tip trick. You don't have to do the lighter if you don't want to, but I do. It always works for me. And then the front has a little thread also. I'm going to cut it kind of low. And I'm going to just a little singe just so it won't pull up. And I'm going to remove my stabilizer now. And I get my fingers down in the corners really tight. Out of focus, sorry. I put my fingers to get that out of the corner. If not, then I have hemostats that I use to get in there and pull it out. So we have our design. I use my inexpensive scissors again. Here we go. And I'm going to cut out the design. I'll explain a little bit on it, and then I'll just cut the rest so you're not watching paint dry here. So I start with my design up into the back of my scissors. This is the back. This is the tip. So the back of the scissors is where you want to cut. You don't want to cut up here and do the snipping stuff. You want to cut to the back. So I always start with the tab part. It's easier to just start with the tab part and make sure you're on your line and get started and used to it, and then you start with your actual design part. I have my scissor hand, my right hand is up against my body. I just kind of leave it up against the body, or if I'm sitting, I have it in my lap up against my side. I want to move this. This is what I want to move. Minimal here, maximum here. So we're moving our design, not our scissors. So I'm going to start, and it's about 1/8 of an inch from where the stitch line is. And I'm going to keep my design tight into my scissors. I'll open my scissors, and as I open the scissors, let me get to the corner, from cutting, as I open my scissors, I keep pushing my design up into the scissors. And you want to keep your scissors level with your design. You don't want to cut this way or that way. You want to keep it level. I get to my corner in there. I still keep my scissors in there. I'll open them up and I will turn my pattern in that tight corner. Sometimes you can pull this back just to make sure you're getting in there, that little tight corner, and then you just start cutting again. And when you're curving, you're moving the design, not your scissors. And you manipulate it in your fingers. You can, between your two fingers, pinching it, you're maneuvering it, you're twisting and turning. You got your little bumps here. When you feel you're getting offline, stop and move your scissors open again and push your design towards the back of the scissors. We're going to cut again. I'm going to stop. I'm going to open my scissors and push my design back in the scissors. Start to cut again. I'm getting to a curve and I want to make sure it's going to be a nice curve, so I want to start fresh. So I'm going to push my scissors up in there, or my pattern up into my scissors, my design, and I'm going to start with the back again, and I'm going to cut evenly around. Here's a nice corner that I'm going to make, so I'm going to take that design and be ready with it, and I'm going to reposition my hand, and as I cut, I'm going to turn my design. And it made a nice sharp turn, or rounded, nice rounded without jagged edges. I feel like I'm getting off, which I kind of am. I'm starting to go further away from my stitches, so I stop for a minute and I'm going to regroup, and I'm just going to, angle it back inwards towards my stitches. Here's a little hoop cut. I'm going to stop while I'm in the groove. I'm going to reposition again, open up my scissors, push the design back in, and start around again. Nice little swoop. Stop. Don't want to go to the end of my scissors. Nope. Open the scissors again right at that corner. And I'm going to turn again. Nice little turn. I'm at a spot where I'm going to make a sharp edge again. So I'm going to stop. And then I'm going to grab my design, reposition it again. I'm going to actually turn it this way a little bit. But I've got my design up into my scissors. I haven't let go. Make my little curve. I'm at my little point there again. Open my scissors. I'm going to hold my design. I'm going to turn it while my scissors are still open. I'm going to turn that design and keep it tight, and I'm going to start slowly making a cut, and then once I'm positioned, then I know I'm going to continue that straight cut. Trying to watch my design and watch my video at the same time to make sure you guys can see this. So I started to go off. Yes, you can let go. Once you get practice and you know how, and you start getting better at cutting, and you're able to manipulate and move things a little better. Sometimes your first time cutting this vinyl is the only time you can cut that. It's not going to be easy to come back in here and cut a little sliver off. Not easy on some vinyls to cut twice. So majority of the time you cut your vinyl once. So I'm going to try, just because I was getting a little bit out of hand on there, not easy to do, like I said. So I'm going to try and shove it up in there and make my last curve and finish it off nicely, coming straight down. I have a little nick there, so that's when you can take the tip of your scissors and just nip that corner off. Okay, and there we go. That's our snap tab. This design actually, like I said, badbobbin.com. This is one of my Valentine designs coming out. Now we're going to put our snap tab on. Everything's trimmed, cut, ready to go. I have my awl. I'm going to make my first hole at the top. Careful coming through that you don't poke it in your finger because it can hurt. And then I'm going to make my next hole down towards the bottom. If you want, you can also put your cap in there and leave the pointy part hanging. And if you want to kind of adjust it and mark your spot, you can kind of bend it down, press it, and that's going to show you a little hole where you can put your awl in, and you know that's where it's going to come out. But my heart's going to be there. So this will be my back part. And since I'm going to put a heart snap here, and I know there's going to be enough room, my tabs are usually 2 inches, so I leave plenty of room for you to put a ring in there, a nice size ring. So I think I'm going to put my heart about right there. So be in the middle of my stitch line, and I'm going to make my hole. There we go. And I'll put my heart. And you make sure that you push it down your vinyl down in and that your prong of it is really sticking out for you. You really want to push the vinyl down in and make sure that prong is sticking out. Alright, so when I make a snap tab, it's not a law, it's not you have to do it that way, it's just a way that I do it. It's just a theory that I follow, is that I always have at the top or on the tab or at the non-receiving end, the larger part of anything like a wallet, a snap tab or anything, this larger part is considered like your receiving end. You're actually snapping it to the big piece. I use the male part at the top and I'm going to use the female part at the bottom. I always have the female part at the receiving part. So I'm going to do my top male part and I'm going to use my hand. I also have a table press, which I have it set up on a stool, so I may do a video and show you that one soon. But the hand press I don't use very often anymore, only if it's hard to get into and the table press can't do it. But I use the table edge as a leverage. My wrists aren't good for this anymore. So I'm going to use the table, the edge of the table, and the bottom part here sits on the table. So this part here sits on the table and I'm going to leverage and I'm going to push it down on the table. And that put the male part in. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with my bottom, but here this one I want to make sure that my heart is straight, because this one is actually a little tricky getting a shape snap in a round receiver at the bottom of your pliers. So to make sure my heart is straight, because once you crimp, sometimes you just can't move it anymore. It's crimped for good. So I'm going to gently put it in there, make sure it's set in the bottom, make sure I'm centered in the top, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to press it on the table. Alright, and there we go. Snaps are crimped properly. I always make sure it snaps well and it doesn't pull apart, so I'm good on that. We're all set. I'm going to put a ring in this. Let's see if I have one. Larger ring. So I use a split ring, snap it closed, and there we go. Our heart shaped. I call this, I think, I'm trying to remember which design, I'm sorry. This is called my script heart snap tab. So if you enjoyed my video, give me a thumbs up. Any comments down below would be great. Any ideas that you want, the beginners wants to see things, I'll be glad to make a video and show you. Subscribe, that way you'll get notifications and be able to come in and see what else I'm doing and what's coming up new. So thanks for joining me. I'm Tammy with badbobbin.com. See you at the cutting table.